She was innocent, but fate had other plans. What started as purity became the truest love she ever imagined living. Where are you watching this story from? Subscribe to the channel and leave a like, because the ending will show you that true love transforms everything. The fabric ripped. It was a sharp, cutting sound that echoed through the church nave like a silent scream. Eleanor felt the weight of the tool catch on her heel as she stumbled up the 3 steps separating the oak doors from the altar decorated with white lilies. 200 heads turned in perfect synchrony, 200 pairs of eyes fixed on her, some curious, others pitying, many simply waiting for the spectacle. Her hands trembled, holding the bouquet of white roses, not from nerves, not from emotion, from pure frozen terror that climbed up her spine and exploded in her chest in suffocating waves. The letter was still tucked between her breasts, where she'd shoved it minutes earlier when she found it sliding under the vestry door. Cheap paper, hurried handwriting, truths that burned hotter than coals. The sickly sweet smell of the lilies was unbearable now, nauseating, mixed with the heavy perfume of the aunts occupying the front pews. Eleanor looked toward the altar. Dominic stood there in an impeccable grey suit, nervous but confident smile, hands clasped over his stomach. Handsome, well-mannered, liar. 6 months. Only 6 months since Aunt Beatrice had introduced him as a proper young man from a good family, hard-working. 6 months of supervised conversations in the sitting room, chaste kisses at the gate, future plans sketched in pink notebooks. 6 months of believing that finally her life would be like the films she watched in secret. Pure love, happy ending, perfect family. Gran sat in the front row, white handkerchief in her hands, eyes shining with pride. 78 years carrying the weight of traditions like one carries a cross. She was the one who'd raised Eleanor after the accident that took her parents. A sharp bend, a rainy night, 2 white coffins that the 5-year-old girl saw from afar without understanding. "Save yourself for marriage," Gran would say. A respectable young woman doesn't give herself away like that. Purity is the greatest virtue. And Eleanor had saved herself. Saved everything. Virginity, heart, dreams. She wore large glasses she didn't need, baggy clothes that hid curves, hair always pulled back in a tight bun. At 23, she was invisible, exactly as she'd learned to be. But now, standing there with the torn dress and truth burning against her skin, something awakened. A cold, crystalline rage. Not against Dominic, against herself. For believing, for being so easy to deceive. The wedding march echoed through the ancient organ. The vicar waited with outstretched hands, solemn expression. Dominic took 2 steps forward, hand extended, smile wavering. Eleanor looked at that hand, saw the well-manicured nails, the gold ring, the long fingers that had held hers with such feigned tenderness, saw the future she didn't want, tidy house, dinner on the table, forced smile hiding debts, lies, disappointments. She did something that surprised even herself. She threw the bouquet on the floor. The murmur was instantaneous, a wave that ran through the pews like wind through wheat. Gran stood up, mouth open. Dominic froze, smile transforming into a mask of confusion. Eleanor grabbed the skirts of her dress with both hands, turned, and ran. She ran through corridors of cold stone, shoes beating an irregular rhythm, veil torn off and thrown somewhere along the way. She burst through the main doors, ignoring Gran's shouts, Dominic's calls, the chaos she left behind. The churchyard was silent under the strong March sun. Hydrangeas swayed in the breeze coming from the sea, sweet perfume mixed with salt. Eleanor didn't stop. She ran down the cobblestone street, barefoot now because the shoes flew off at some point, dress tearing more with each stride. People stopped on the pavements. Mrs. Hartley at the bakery door, mouth agape. Old Mr. Davies washing his car, hose forgotten, water gushing. Children pointing, laughing, not understanding the tragedy or the liberation, perhaps both at once. The beach. She needed to reach the beach, her refuge since childhood, the only place where she could breathe without the weight of expectations crushing her chest. When her feet touched the warm sand, Eleanor finally stopped. The dress was in tatters, a cloud of dirty, torn tulle. Her whole body trembled, lungs burning, heart beating so hard it hurt. And then she saw him, A man sitting on the dark rocks at the end of the beach, looking at the horizon. He was too far away to see details, but there was something in his posture, broad shoulders curved, solidity amid the vastness of the ocean, that pulled her like tide. Eleanor walked. Each step sank into the sand, ankles wavering, body exhausted. Tears began to fall, first silent, then in sobs that tore at her throat. When she got close enough, she saw he was about 40, perhaps older. Dark hair tousled by wind, some grey strands at the temples, sun-bronzed skin of someone who spends days outdoors, a thin scar cut across his left eyebrow, giving him a dangerous air that contrasted with the softness of his dark eyes. He wore a faded cotton shirt, trousers rolled to the knees, bare feet. He smelled of salt, fish, honest sweat of manual labour. He looked at her, destroyed bride, smudged makeup, dress in ruins, and asked no questions. Simply opened his arms. Eleanor didn't think. She threw herself against that broad chest and cried as she hadn't cried since she'd buried her parents. Cried for all the saved purity, all the betrayed expectations, all the dreams crumbling. His arms wrapped around her firmly, securely. There was no desire, no judgment, only silent acceptance. "It's all right," he murmured, voice rough from disuse. "You're safe." And for the first time in 23 years, Eleanor believed. The sun descended slowly over the sea, painting the clouds orange and purple. Eleanor didn't know how long she'd stayed there, curled against this stranger who smelled of ocean and truth. The sobs eventually diminished, transforming into trembling breaths. He didn't ask anything, just held on. When she finally pulled away, his eyes were kind, patient, without the morbid curiosity she saw on city faces whenever something extraordinary happened. "I'm Callum," he said simply. "Eleanor." Her voice came out hoarse, destroyed from crying. Callum nodded as if the name made perfect sense, as if runaway brides appeared on the beach every day. "There's a place up there." He pointed above the cliff where an old building stood out against the sky. "The Anchor Inn, it's mine. I can give you water, perhaps some clothes that aren't—" He made a vague gesture at the destroyed dress. Eleanor looked at herself and almost laughed. Almost. She was ridiculous. Torn tulle, stains of sand and tears, hair escaping from the bun in rebellious strands. "I don't want to go back," she whispered. "Home. Anywhere." "You don't have to. Not today." There was something in his voice, a deep understanding of escapes, fresh starts, days when returning seemed impossible. Callum rose from the rocks with fluid movement, despite his age, extended his hand. Eleanor looked at that calloused palm, rough from manual labour, so different from Dominic's soft hands. She accepted. The climb to the inn was silent. Eleanor walked with difficulty in the soft sand, dress weighing tons. Callum kept a slow pace, hand steady when she stumbled. The Anchor Inn was an old two-story building, whitewashed walls peeling, colonial tile roof patched. Wisteria climbed the sides, and there was a wide veranda with a hammock swaying in the breeze. "It's not much," Callum said, almost apologetic. "Bought it 3 months ago, still has a lot of work ahead." Inside it smelled of old wood, fresh paint and reheated tea. The main room had aged plank flooring, some mismatched chairs, a large table of raw wood. Everything clean but clearly unfinished. "Bathroom there." He pointed down a narrow corridor. "Hot water works, I'll leave clothes by the door." Eleanor entered the tiny bathroom, locked the door, and finally looked in the mirror. The woman staring back was unrecognizable. Mascara streaked in black trails, lipstick smeared, chaotic hair. But it was the eyes that shocked. Red from crying, yes, but also alive. Bright with something she couldn't name. Anger, fear, freedom. She removed the dress slowly, each layer revealing the woman she'd hidden underneath. Body too thin, timid curves, pale skin of someone who avoided sun. She stepped into the hot shower and let the water wash everything away. Makeup, expensive perfume, others' expectations. When she came out, there were folded clothes by the door. An oversized men's t-shirt, smell of soap and sun. Shorts with an adjustable cord. Simple, comfortable, honest. Callum was in the kitchen when she returned, making sandwiches. Fresh bread, cheese, tomato. Nothing elaborate, but the smell made her stomach growl. She hadn't eaten since nervous breakfast. Sit, he indicated the table. Eleanor sat, ate in silence, each bite tasting better than any banquet planned for the reception. Callum ate too, eyes on his plate, giving her space. It was only when she finished the second sandwich that Eleanor spoke. I received a letter, before the ceremony. Callum waited, saying it was all lies, that he, her voice failed, that I was just a wager, a business deal. Do you believe it? The question caught her off guard. It wasn't, how awful, or are you sure? Just direct question, waiting for honest answer. I believe it, she admitted, and the certainty hurt. Deep down, I always knew something was wrong. But I wanted so badly to believe, in the fairy tale. It wasn't judgment. It was understanding. Eleanor nodded, new tears threatening to fall. She blinked hard, pushing them away. She'd cried enough. The whole town must be talking. It'll pass, Callum said with conviction of someone who knew. Everything passes. New scandal appears. They'll forget you. And guilt squeezed her chest. She must be beside herself. Want to ring her? Eleanor thought of Gran, of the disappointment, the shame, thought of explaining the inexplicable, justifying the unjustifiable. Not today, she echoed his words. Callum nodded, got up to wash the dishes. Eleanor watched the efficient movements, the economy of gestures of someone who'd lived alone for a while. Are you from here? She asked. From the town. Was. Left at 18. Came back 3 months ago. Why? He paused, hands immersed in soapy water. Because sometimes you need to return to the places you left. Close cycles. The answer carried weight, untold stories. Eleanor didn't press. So you can stay, Callum said, drying his hands. As long as you need. I don't have guests this week. Room at the end of the corridor has a clean bed. I can't pay. Didn't ask for payment. Her pride wanted to protest, but her exhausted body won. She nodded, gratitude tightening her throat. The room was small, simple. Double bed with faded blue coverlet, window overlooking the sea, nightstand with lamp. It smelled of lavender and wood. Eleanor lay down still in borrowed clothes, body sinking into the firm mattress. She heard Callum moving through the house, heavy but careful steps. Heard the wind in the wisteria, distant waves. She thought she wouldn't be able to sleep. Too much shock, too much adrenaline. But the exhaustion was too deep, too ancient. She fell asleep imagining Dominic waiting at the altar, bouquet thrown on the floor, 200 witnesses to the end of a fairy tale that had never been real. And for the first time in months, she had no nightmares. Dawn arrived slowly, golden light seeping through the window cracks. Eleanor woke disoriented. Where was she? Why didn't she hear Gran's steps in the corridor, the familiar sound of the kettle whistling? Then memory returned like a breaking wave, the church, the letter, the escape. She sat up in bed, heart racing. The room was strange but welcoming, smell of sea entering through the half-open window. She heard footsteps outside on the veranda. She got up, muscles sore from yesterday's run. Found Callum on the veranda, sitting in the hammock with steaming mug of tea, watching the ocean. Morning, her voice came out small. He turned, something like a smile touching his lips. Tea's ready. Scones too. The veranda table had brewed tea, homemade scones, butter, strawberry jam. Simple but prepared with care. Eleanor served herself, sat in the wooden chair. The tea was strong, bitter the right way. She took a sip, closing her eyes to savor it. Sleep well? Callum asked. Better than expected. Comfortable silence. The sun rose slowly, painting the sea silver and gold. Gulls cried in the distance. What will you do? He asked eventually. Eleanor had no answer. Hadn't thought beyond the escape, beyond the next second. I don't know. People must be looking for you, I imagine. Gran. Dominic, perhaps. Aunts, cousins. The list was long, suffocating. Want me to say you're not here? If they turn up? The offer was simple but meant complicity, meant protection. For now. Yes, she admitted. I need to think. Callum nodded, not pressing. He finished his tea, stood up. Going to work in the back. Wall needs plastering. Make yourself at home. House is small, but there are books there. He pointed to a crooked bookshelf in the living room. And the beach. Thank you, Eleanor interrupted. Really? I don't need to thank me. But she needed to tell someone, even if it was this kind stranger who'd taken her in without questions. Callum disappeared toward the back of the inn. Eleanor stayed on the veranda, mug in hands, trying to organize thoughts that spun chaotic like gulls in a storm. The life she'd known had crumbled, wedding cancelled, reputation destroyed, family humiliated, and she was in an unfamiliar inn, wearing borrowed clothes with no plans, no visible future. And yet, sitting there with the sun warming her skin, Eleanor felt something strange, relief. The weight she'd carried on her shoulders for so long, expectations, rules, obligations, had vanished. In its place was frightening emptiness, yes, but also possibility. She explored the inn slowly. Living room with old but comfortable sofa, bookshelf with worn books, wall with framed photos, small but functional kitchen, persistent smell of tea. 3 rooms besides the one she used, all empty but clean. In the corridor, a photo caught her attention. Callum younger, perhaps 10 years ago, next to a beautiful woman with a wide smile. Embracing, happy. Eleanor studied the image, wondering who she was. Wife? Sister? Someone who wasn't there anymore, clearly. The sound of hammering came from the back. Eleanor followed, curious. She found Callum shirtless, sweat glistening on bronzed skin, muscles working as he repaired a cracked wall. There was raw strength in that mature body, but also care in movements, attention to details. He noticed her presence, paused. Need help? Eleanor asked before thinking. Callum raised an eyebrow. Know how to plaster a wall? No, but I can learn. Something passed through his eyes. Surprise, perhaps. Respect. Can you hold there? He indicated a loose board. Eleanor held it. It wasn't difficult work, but required attention. Callum explained each step with patience, voice low, hands demonstrating when words weren't enough. They worked until noon, when the sun got too strong. Eleanor had dirty hands, broken nails, aching arms. But she felt useful, productive. You all right? Callum asked, noticing her expression. Yes, she answered, surprised by the truth in the word. I am. They ate yesterday's leftovers, and Callum disappeared to the beach. Need to check the nets, he explained vaguely. Alone, Eleanor finally allowed herself to think of home, of Gran who'd raised her with rigid love, with rules that seemed like protection but were prison, of the pink room she'd never chosen, of the proper clothes she wore to please others' expectations, of Dominic whom she'd never truly loved, only loved the idea of him, the promise of a safe and approved future. In the afternoon, as the sun began to descend, Eleanor picked up one of the books from the shelf, old novel, worn cover. She sat in the veranda hammock and read until the light got too dim. Callum returned with fresh fish, cleaned them expertly in the kitchen. Eleanor watched the skilled hands' efficient movements. Where did you learn? She asked. My father. He was a fisherman. Pause. Before the drink got him. The information came simple, without self-pity, just fact. They ate grilled fish with rice, better than any meal Eleanor remembered. Perhaps because she had real hunger, not the polite hunger of someone eating out of social obligation. Tomorrow I need to go into town, Callum said. Get materials for work. Want to come? Eleanor thought of familiar streets, curious stares, sharp tongues. I'm not ready. That's fine. I'll leave food prepared. His kindness was disconcerting. He asked nothing in return, made no invasive questions. Just was there. That night, lying in the bed that was already beginning to feel familiar, Eleanor thought of Dominic for the first time without anger, only sadness for wasted time, squandered naivety, and she thought of Callum, strange man, kind, full of silences hiding stories, man who'd taken her in when he had every reason not to. She fell asleep to the sound of waves, and the strange feeling that perhaps running from the altar had been the first truly her choice she'd made in her life. The third day brought storm. Eleanor woke to thunder rumbling over the ocean, rain hammering the roof in irregular rhythm. The inn groaned under the wind, old timbers protesting. Callum was already awake, checking windows, placing buckets under stubborn leaks. "Roof's worse than I thought," he grumbled, more to himself. Eleanor got up, helped without asking. They worked in synchronized silence, moving through the house like dancers, knowing the steps. The storm lasted until afternoon. When it finally calmed, it left the sky washed, the air smelling of wet earth and salt. That's when they knocked on the door. Callum and Eleanor exchanged glances. He went to answer while she retreated to the corridor, heart racing. "Good morning." The voice was female, shrill, familiar. Mrs. Hartley, the bakery owner, queen of town gossip. "Morning," Callum responded, voice neutral. "Came to bring scones. Heard you're renovating the inn. Imagine you don't have time for such things." Obvious lie. Mrs. Hartley wanted to snoop. "Thanks, but I have scones." "Oh, how rude to refuse. Well, anyway, I actually came to ask, you haven't seen a young woman around here by any chance? Brown hair, early 20s? Eleanor held her breath. "Why are you looking?" "Well, it's just that she ran from her wedding. Caused a terrible scandal. Her poor gran is beside herself. The whole town's searching. Haven't seen anyone." "Are you certain?" "Because she was seen running in this direction." "I'm certain." Tense silence. Eleanor imagined Mrs. Hartley trying to peer inside, small, curious eyes searching. "You know this inn used to belong to the Thornton family, don't you? Before you bought it. They say it's haunted. People who died of heartbreak." "Ghosts don't bother me," Callum responded, dry. "Well, if you see the girl, do let us know. The family is very worried." "Will do." The door closed firmly. Footsteps retreated, reluctant. Callum returned to the living room where Eleanor stood against the wall, face pale. "She'll spread that I'm here." "Perhaps," he shrugged. "Or perhaps not. She's not certain." But Eleanor knew Mrs. Hartley. The woman sniffed out secrets like a hound sniffed bones. That night more visitors. This time Dominic's cousin, a portly man named Geoffrey, who banged with aggressive force. "I know she's in there," he shouted when Callum opened. "Neighbors have seen. There's no one here but me. Let me in to check." "No." "Who do you think you are?" Geoffrey advanced, chest puffed. "Show up here. Think you can buy this shabby inn?" "I suggest you leave my property." Callum's voice became dangerous, low. "Now." Something in the tone made Geoffrey retreat. He huffed, spat on the ground, left muttering threats. Eleanor emerged from hiding, trembling. "They'll keep coming." "Probably." "I can't stay here forever. I can't—" Her voice failed. "I can't hide my whole life." Callum studied her with those dark eyes that saw too much. "No, you can't. But you can rest until you're ready to face it." "And when will that be?" "You'll know." That night Eleanor barely slept. She heard every noise, every wind, imagining crowds banging on the door, Dominic demanding explanations, Gran crying disappointment. By dawn, she was decided. "I need to go there," she told Callum over tea, "to Gran's house, face it." "Want me to come with you?" The offer was tempting, but Eleanor knew that would make it worse. Confirm scandals, add fuel to gossip. "No, I need to go alone." Callum nodded, respecting the decision. He offered the old car, but Eleanor preferred to walk. She needed the time, the distance to gather courage. The path to Gran's house seemed longer than ever. Each corner, Eleanor expected accusing looks. And they came, Mrs. Hartley at the bakery making the sign of the cross, old Mr. Davies averting his eyes, children whispering, pointing. The house was the same, yellow with white windows, hydrangea garden, iron gate, but it seemed different now, smaller, more suffocating. Eleanor took a deep breath and knocked. Gran opened the door. She'd aged years in 3 days, sunken eyes, disheveled hair, trembling hands. "Eleanor," she whispered, voice breaking. "Gran." They stood there, looking at each other. Then Gran pulled her inside, tight embrace that smelled of lavender and tears. "I thought I'd lost you, thought I'd done something terrible. You didn't do anything. Dominic came here. explained, said it was a misunderstanding, that the letter was lies from someone trying to separate you. He's sorry, wants to talk. Eleanor pulled away, looking into Gran's eyes. And you believe him? He seemed sincere. Gran. He lied about debts, about who he is, about everything. But we all have pasts, dear. We all have mistakes. What matters is the future, family, I don't love him. The words came out simple, true. Gran blinked, confused. Love is built, with time, respect. I don't want to build anything with him. Eleanor, Gran's voice hardened. You humiliated our family, made a scandal. Now you're hiding heaven knows where. At the Anchor Inn. Shocked silence. With that man. Her voice was pure horror. Callum Thornton? He took me in, was kind when no one else was. Kind, Gran nearly shouted. He's a widower, Eleanor, old, and you a proper young woman staying at his house without supervision. He hasn't touched me. It doesn't matter. The appearances. What will people say? And there it was, the naked truth. It wasn't about Eleanor's happiness, about her choices, her feelings. It was about appearances. It always had been. I'm not going back to Dominic, Eleanor said, voice firm despite her racing heart. So then what will you do? Stay with this fisherman? You who were raised to be a proper gentleman's wife? I don't know what I'll do, but I know what I won't. Gran collapsed into a chair, hands on her face. She was crying now, tears of frustration and shame. I raised you better than this. I taught you values, morals, decency. You taught me to be invisible, Eleanor responded, and the pain in her voice was ancient. To hide who I am, to please everyone but myself. She left before Gran could respond, before guilt could make her go back. On the street her legs trembled, but there was something stronger than fear now. There was truth, raw, painful, liberating. Eleanor returned to the inn with light body and heavy mind. The conversation with Gran had left scars exposed, old wounds pulsing. Callum was on the roof when she arrived, fixing tiles broken by the storm. He climbed down when he saw her, reading the tension in her face. Want to talk about it? No. He nodded, not pressing. Offered water, shade, silence. But Eleanor didn't want silence. She wanted action. Wanted to do something, anything to keep her from thinking about the disappointment in Gran's eyes. Teach me, she said abruptly. Teach what? Everything, to fix things, to work. I don't want to sit around thinking. Callum studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Come on. He spent the afternoon teaching her to use tools, how to hold a hammer to nail without bending, how to spread plaster evenly, how to measure, cut, fit. Eleanor's hands became calloused, sore. She hit her own thumb with the hammer twice, let out curses that would have scandalized Gran. Callum didn't laugh, just taught again, patiently. When the sun descended, they'd repaired 3 meters of cracked wall. Not perfect, Callum evaluated, but it's solid. That's what matters. Eleanor looked at the work. Imperfect, yes, but made by her own hands. Something concrete, real, that would exist after she left. That evening, while Callum cooked, she explored more of the inn, opened the door to a room she hadn't seen yet, the only locked one. Inside, everything was untouched. Women's clothes in the wardrobe, perfume on the dresser, books beside the bed, a framed photograph, the woman from the corridor photo, smiling. That room was my wife's. Callum's voice behind her made Eleanor jump. He stood in the doorway, expression unreadable. Was, he corrected himself. It was. Sorry, I shouldn't have. It's all right. He entered, ran his fingers over the dusty dresser. Rosemary died 3 years ago. Cancer, it was quick. Eleanor didn't know what to say. Platitudes seemed offensive. Is that why you came back? She asked instead. Part of the reason. Callum sat on the bed, looking around as if seeing ghosts. We lived in London. Good life, good work. When she died, I couldn't stay there anymore. Everything reminded me of her. And here doesn't? Here I can remember without it hurting as much. He looked at Eleanor. Here there's the sea, always calmed me. Why don't you touch the room? The question came out before she could filter it, but Callum didn't seem offended. Fear, I suppose, of forgetting, of moving on and betraying her memory. Do you think she wanted you to stay trapped? No. Sad smile. Rosemary would kill me if she knew. She was full of life, until the end. They stayed in silence in the room, frozen in time. Eleanor felt strange connection, both trapped in different pasts, both trying to find courage for uncertain future. Going to make dinner, Callum stood eventually. You stay, leave, decide. This room, maybe it's time to let go. He left. Eleanor stayed a few more minutes looking at Rosemary's things, imagined the woman she'd been, from the decoration, cheerful, colourful, alive. Imagined Callum with her, younger, happier, less haunted. She left, closing the door slowly, respectful. In the following days, routine established itself. Eleanor worked at the inn, cleaning, fixing, painting. Callum taught, patient with mistakes, generous with rare praise. At night they talked on the veranda, small things at first, weather, food, day's work, then deeper. Callum told about his alcoholic father, the mother who fled, the hard childhood. Eleanor told about the parents she lost, the gran who raised her with rigid love, the shelved dreams. What did you want? Callum asked one of those nights. Before all this, Eleanor thought, no one had ever asked. I don't know. They never let me want things. And now? Now. She looked at her own calloused hands, at the inn she was helping rebuild. Now I want to know what it's like to make choices. Callum smiled, real smile that reached his eyes. Welcome to the club. But the peace was temporary. A week after the confrontation with Gran, Dominic appeared. Eleanor was painting the veranda when the car stopped in front of the inn. She recognized the vehicle immediately, stomach tightening. Dominic got out slowly, impeccable suit even in the heat. He looked at her, hair pulled back in messy ponytail, t-shirt stained with paint, old shorts, as if seeing an alien creature. Eleanor. Dominic. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I have a right to an explanation, his voice rose. You left me at the altar, humiliated my family, Your image, Eleanor completed, coming down from the ladder. That's what you care about. I care about you. This wedding was important. For our business, your business. The truth clear now. I was business too, wasn't I? Dominic had the decency to look uncomfortable. The letter was lies, jealousy from someone wanting to separate us. It was truth, you know it was. Everyone has debts, Eleanor. That doesn't mean... It means you lied. About everything. And you're here playing the saint. The tone turned venomous. Living with an old man unmarried, I can imagine what you do here. Leave. Callum's voice came from the door, low but dangerous. Dominic turned, sighs inflating in aggressive posture. Ah, the hero. The failed fisherman who bought a failing inn thinking he'd be a businessman. I told you to leave. Or what? You'll hit me? In front of Eleanor? Show what kind of violent man you are? Callum didn't respond. Just stood there, solid as rock, eyes fixed on Dominic. It was Dominic who broke first. He retreated, pointing at Eleanor. You'll regret this. When this old man tires of you, when you realize the mistake you made, you'll come crawling back, and I won't be waiting. He got in the car, sped away, raising dust. Eleanor realized she was shaking. Callum approached slowly, not touching, but offering presence. Are you all right? No. Raw honesty. But I will be. That night, Callum opened Rosemary's room, packed the clothes carefully, stored photos in a special box, donated what could be donated. Eleanor helped in silence, respecting his pain, the necessary courage. When they finished, the room was empty, sad, but also light. Thank you, Callum said quietly. For what? For helping me let go. They stood there, in the empty room full of possibilities, and for the first time since they'd met, their eyes lingered. His on hers on his. Different tension in the air, not uncomfortable, just present. The following weeks brought subtle but profound changes. Eleanor woke early, helped with repairs, learned skills she'd never imagined having. How to change a tap, how to fix a lock, how to calculate needed materials without waste. But there was another learning happening, a more dangerous one. She was falling in love with Callum. It hadn't been sudden, not like in the novels she read. It was gradual, built in small moments. The way he explained things with infinite patience, how he made strong tea just the way she liked without ever asking, the rare but genuine laugh when she told some story. And Callum was changing too, smiled more, talked more. On nights on the veranda, their chairs had been approaching centimetre by centimetre, until their arms almost touched. But there was invisible barrier between them. He never touched beyond what was necessary to teach something, never let gazes last too long, maintained careful, deliberate distance. Eleanor didn't understand. She saw the way he looked at her sometimes, naked desire quickly hidden, but always pulled back. One afternoon, while they painted the inn's exterior, Eleanor decided to confront it. "Why do you do that?" "What?" Callum didn't look up, concentrated on uniform brushstrokes. "Pull away every time you get too close." The brush stopped. Long silence. "You're 23, Eleanor." "And?" "I'm 42. I can do maths. It's not just age." He finally looked at her. "It's lived life. I've been married, buried a wife. I have scars you can't even imagine. And I have mine. Yours are different. You're beginning. I'm trying not to finish completely." Eleanor descended from the ladder, approached. Callum tensed, but didn't retreat. "Do you think I'm a child? That I don't know what I want? I think you just got out of a relationship from trauma, and I don't want to be the temporary refuge." The honesty hurt more than lies would. "You think that's it? That I'm here because I need someone, anyone? I don't know, do you?" The question stopped her. Did she know? Was that it? Loneliness seeking loneliness, wound attracted to wound. She didn't answer, returned to painting in heavy silence. But the seed was planted. Eleanor began observing herself, questioning each feeling. Was it real? Was it gratitude? Was it fear of being alone? At night, lying in bed, she thought of Callum, of the way his hands moved tools with precision, of the rough voice laughing at some joke, of the smell of sweat and sea he always brought, and she admitted to herself, it wasn't gratitude, it wasn't fear, it was real attraction, deep, frightening. But what about him? Did he feel the same? Or was it chivalry, older man's protection of lost girl? The answer came on a stormy night. Thunder shook the inn, rain hammering violently. Eleanor was trying to sleep when she heard knocking on the bedroom door. "You awake?" Callum's voice tense. "I am." "Roof's leaking. Need help." She got up, followed him to the corridor. Water dripped from the ceiling in 3 different places. They ran placing buckets, basins, anything that would hold water. When they were in the last room, the one that had been Rosemary's, the ceiling gave way. Water gushed in sudden waterfall. Callum pushed Eleanor aside, protecting her with his body. They were pressed against the wall, him covering her while water and debris fell. When it stopped, they were soaked, breathless, very close. Eleanor looked up. Callum looked down. Drop of water ran from his forehead to his chin. Time stopped. She saw everything in his eyes, desire, fear, conflict, saw the exact moment resolution broke. Callum lowered his face. She rose. The kiss was inevitable as tide, desperate as drowning. Hands in wet hair, bodies pressed, years of loneliness exploding in sudden connection. He tasted of tea and rain. She melted against that broad chest, feeling tense muscles, racing heart. But then Callum pulled back, breathless. "No, we can't." "Why not?" "Because you deserve more. Deserve a whole man, not wreckage trying to reassemble." "What if I want the wreckage?" "Eleanor," he ran hands over his face, "you don't know what you're saying." "I do," frustration exploding. "You keep treating me like a child." "I don't." "You do, since I arrived, kind, careful, always pulling away, as if I might break." "I might break." His voice rose, raw. "I might," trembling breath. "Don't want to hurt you." You hurt me more with this distance. Silence. Only rain beating, water dripping. Callum looked at her, really looked. Saw woman, not girl. Saw strength, not fragility. I need time, he said finally. To be absolutely certain I'm not taking advantage, that this is real. It is real. Give me time to believe that. Eleanor nodded, throat tight. It wasn't rejection. It was care. They worked until dawn, fixing the roof temporarily. Side by side, respecting the new space between them. When they finally went to sleep, exhausted, Eleanor lay listening to the rain calm. Callum had asked for time. She would give it, but certainty burned in her chest. What she felt was real. Deep. Impossible to deny. Now she just needed to wait for him to believe it too. 2 weeks after the kiss, reality knocked on the door in the form of a man in expensive suit with clipboard. Callum Thornton, official voice, no emotion. Yes. Council. Work without license, structural irregularities. You'll need to stop renovations until you regularize. Eleanor saw the blood drain from Callum's face. But I submitted the documents. They were denied. Old building, heritage area. Need approved project from engineer, environmental reports, all documentation. How long does that take? Months. Perhaps a year. The man left, leaving heavy fine and 15-day deadline to halt everything. Callum sat on the veranda, head in hands. Eleanor had never seen him like this, defeated, small. It'll work out, she tried to comfort. It won't. Hollow voice. I spent everything I had on purchase and start of renovations. Don't have money for engineer, reports, months of waiting. Then we'll find it. He laughed without humor. With what money, Eleanor? Miracles. The anger in his voice wasn't directed at her, but it hurt anyway. Eleanor retreated, leaving him alone with despair. In the following days, the situation worsened. Bills arrived, electricity, water, overdue taxes. Callum went from hopeful to desperate to resigned. Going to have to sell, he said one night, voice dead. There's no other way. No. There has to be another way. There isn't. I'm broke, Eleanor. Completely broke. Bet everything on this inn and lost. Eleanor spent the night thinking. By morning, she had a plan. My embroidery work, she began. And pastries. I can sell more. Take orders. Eleanor. And we can run the inn illegally anyway. No advertising, just word of mouth, just to buy time. That's risky. Everything's risky. Now she was exploding. But giving up without fighting doesn't seem like you. Something changed in his face. Shame, perhaps, for having given up so quickly, for having considered escape. You barely know me, he said quietly. How do you know what's like me? I know you came back to hometown to face ghosts, that you bought an inn even without guarantees, that you took in a crazy bride running from the altar. Pause. I know you fight. You just forgot that temporarily. Callum looked at her, really looked, and for the first time since the kiss, he let the barrier fall completely. You're right. They started the next day. Eleanor used her secret savings, saved during years in shoebox to buy materials, made embroidered tablecloths with shells and fish, personalized napkins with initials, traditional pastries in artisan packaging. Callum fixed what he could without drawing attention, painted, cleaned, tidied, and Eleanor had a bold idea. Let's do small parties here. Birthdays, proposals, celebrations, intimate place, sea view. It's illegal. It's only illegal if someone reports it. The first event was a local fisherman's daughter's christening. Nothing elaborate, 10 people, simple decoration, cake Eleanor had made. But the money saved that month's electric bill. Then came a birthday, then a proposal. Word of mouth worked. Soon they had bookings for 2 months ahead. Eleanor discovered talents she didn't know she had, for organizing events, for dealing with people, for transforming simple space into something magical. But she also discovered jealousy, because Callum needed to hire temporary help. Sienna, 25-year-old girl, pretty, uninhibited, clearly interested in him. Callum's so kind, she sighed to Eleanor while arranging tables. "And handsome for his age, don't you think?" Eleanor smiled tensely, driving fork into the tablecloth she was embroidering. Sienna tossed her hair when talking to Callum, touched his arm unnecessarily, laughed loudly at mediocre jokes. And Callum was polite, just that. But the politeness hurt Eleanor. She wanted him to be rude, to push away that insistent hand, wanted him to choose her clearly. One night after an especially lucrative event, Sienna offered to stay helping clean. "You can go, Eleanor," she said sweetly, venomously. "I know you tire easily." "I'm fine." "No, really. Go rest. I'll finish here with Callum." The insinuation was clear. Eleanor looked at Callum, expecting him to say something. Anything. He didn't. She went to her room boiling with anger, jealousy, frustration. Lay down but didn't sleep, hearing laughter outside, Sienna giggling, Callum responding quietly. Hours later, knock on the door. "Eleanor?" "Callum. I'm sleeping." "I know you're not." Silence. "Can I come in?" She didn't answer. He came in anyway, closed the door slowly. Sienna left. "Good. You're angry. Perceptive." Callum sighed, sat on the edge of the bed. "Jealous?" The direct question disarmed her. "What if I am?" "Then it would be idiotic on my part, because I'm not interested in Sienna. Could have fooled me the way you let her touch you. I don't let her. I'm just not rude, but I can be if you prefer." Eleanor sat up, looking at him in the room's darkness. "What do you want from me, Callum?" The question neither had asked yet. The real one. The frightening one. He stayed silent a long time. Then, "Everything. I want everything. And that terrifies me." "Why?" "Because I'm almost 20 years older than you. Because I'm financially broken. Because I still have nightmares about Rosemary dying. Because I don't know if I can be what you deserve." Eleanor approached, took his face in her hands. "I don't want perfection. I want truth." "Then truth is this." Trembling breath. "I want you so much it hurts. But I'm afraid of ruining you, of pulling you into my mess. I'm already in the mess. My own. Two messes don't make tidiness." "No, but they make company." Callum laughed low, forehead resting against hers. "You're too young to be this wise, and you're too old to be this afraid." They stayed like that, breaths mixed, hearts racing. "Give me more time," Callum asked. "Just a bit longer, until I'm certain I won't hurt you." Eleanor nodded against his forehead, throat tight. He left the room. She lay down again. But something had changed. He'd admitted it. Finally admitted it. Now they just needed to figure out if admitting was enough. Spring brought tourists and renewed hope. The illegal inn prospered discreetly, small events keeping bills paid. Eleanor flourished along with it. She abandoned the glasses definitively, never needed them. Cut her hair in layers that framed her face, wore light, colourful dresses that made Gran cross her arms in disapproval on the rare occasions they met in the street. But the external transformation hid internal turbulence. The sexual tension between her and Callum was palpable, suffocating. Gazes that lasted seconds too long, hands that touched accidentally with suspicious frequency, nights on the veranda where silence pulsed with everything they didn't say. Sienna noticed and intensified the attacks. She appeared in increasingly short clothes, always finding excuses to ask Callum for help. "Can you reach that? Can you fix this? Teach me?" Eleanor bit her tongue until it bled. It was during preparation for an intimate wedding at the inn that everything exploded. The couple wanted sunset ceremony on the beach, reception on the veranda, simple but romantic. Eleanor worked days creating perfect decorations, wildflowers, candles in glass jars, hand-embroidered tablecloths. Sienna helped, but always with poisoned comments. "Pity you couldn't get married yourself, isn't it?" she said while arranging chairs. "At least you can make weddings for others." Eleanor breathed deeply, continued working. "But maybe that's better. Marriage isn't for everyone. Some are born to be, what's the word? Eternal girlfriends." "Sienna?" Eleanor finally turned, voice dangerously calm. "Stop." "Stop what?" False innocence. Just making conversation. No, you're being mean. Mean is thinking a man like Callum will settle for an inexperienced girl like you. The slap was instinctive. Eleanor's hand flew before she could think, connecting hard with Sienna's face. The sound echoed. Sienna held her cheek, eyes wide in shock. "You're mad!" "Get out!" Eleanor shouted. "Get out of here now! You can't order me around." "I can!" Her voice came out hoarse, furious. "This is my house as much as his, and you're not welcome." "Your house?" Sienna laughed bitterly. "You're his guest, Charity. He only lets you stay because he pities you." Eleanor advanced. Sienna retreated, fear finally appearing. "Leave before I throw you out." Sienna ran out, dramatic tears flowing. Eleanor stood there, hands shaking, breathing irregular. Callum appeared at the door, attracted by the shouts. "What happened?" "I sent Sienna away." "Why?" "Because she was being—" She searched for the word. "Disrespectful." Callum looked at the mess, overturned chairs, disarranged decorations. Looked at Eleanor, red face, eyes dangerously bright. "You hit her?" "I slapped her." "Eleanor!" "She deserved it." "Doesn't matter. You can't—" "Can't what? Defend myself?" Frustration from weeks exploding. "Stay quiet while she plays games, while she touches you and insinuates, and she means nothing." "Then why do you let her?" Eleanor shouted. "Why do you let her hang on you? Why don't you make it clear that— She couldn't finish. Tears came, anger turning to pain. Callum stood frozen, clearly not knowing what to do. Moved to comfort her, stopped, retreated. "Eleanor, Forget it." She wiped tears angrily. "I'll finish arranging. Let me, I'll do it." "I don't need your help." The shout echoed. Heavy silence followed. Eleanor arranged decorations alone, hands trembling, stubborn tears falling. Callum disappeared somewhere in the inn. The wedding happened perfectly. Beautiful bride, groom crying, golden sunset, everyone happy, except Eleanor, who smiled and served and felt enormous emptiness in her chest. After everyone left while she cleaned, Callum appeared. "We need to talk." "Not now." "Now." Firm voice. They sat on the veranda, careful distance between them. "You're right," Callum began. "About Sienna. Should have been clearer. Should have— I don't want to hear excuses. I'm not making excuses, I'm explaining." Pause. "I'm afraid to touch you because I know I won't be able to stop. I maintain distance because the alternative is pulling you to me and never letting go." Eleanor looked at him, heart racing. "But you also have to understand," he continued, "I'm not a recovery project. I'm not a broken man waiting for a woman to fix. I'm trying to rebuild myself alone, and that takes time. I don't want to fix you." "Don't you?" He looked directly. "Because sometimes it seems like you do. Seems like you want to save me, turn me into your happy ending." The accusation hurt, because it had a grain of truth. "I just—" Small voice. "Just want you to choose me, clearly, without fear." "And when I choose?" Difficult question. "What comes after? You stay, forever, or until the novelty wears off?" "You think this is novelty to me?" "I don't know. You just got out of a disastrous engagement. Might be confusing gratitude with love." "I'm not confusing anything." "How do you know?" Challenge in voice. "With what experience? You said yourself they never let you want things. How do you know you want me, not just want to escape your old life?" Eleanor had no answer, because it was a valid question. Frightening, but valid. "I need certainties," Callum said, tired. "Don't have energy for more disillusions." He got up, went to his room. Eleanor stayed on the veranda until sunrise, thinking. Was he right? Was she confusing gratitude with love, refuge with romance? For the first time since she'd arrived, she doubted herself, and the doubt hurt more than any slap ever could. The following days were cold despite the heat. Callum worked in silence, Eleanor too. They shared space, but not intimacy. Eleanor began sleeping late, avoiding veranda conversations. Woke early, went out to walk on the beach before he woke. It was on one of these walks that she found Gran. The woman sat on the rocks where Eleanor and Callum had first met. She looked smaller, older, bent by the weight of something invisible. "Gran?" Gran turned, eyes red. "Eleanor, what are you doing here?" Could asked the same, voice without strength. "You live on the other side now." Eleanor sat beside her, maintaining respectful distance. "How are you?" "Surviving." Gran looked at the sea. "The whole town talks. About you, about Callum, about the illegal inn. They say you've changed, that you're not the girl I raised anymore." "I'm not. I see that." Long pause. "And I don't know if it's good or bad." "Why does it have to be one or the other?" Gran sighed deeply. "Because I raised you with values, with morals, and now you—" "Now I what?" "Work, make decisions, live. Live in sin, without marriage, without commitment, without your approval." Eleanor completed, ancient hurt surfacing. "That's the real issue, isn't it? I'm not controllable anymore." "Control!" Gran turned abruptly. "You think I wanted to control you? I wanted to protect you." "From what? From living, from making mistakes, from learning who I am, from suffering, like your mother suffered." Raw shout. Gran never talked about Eleanor's mother, not like this. "How did she suffer?" Quiet question. Gran took a while to answer, eyes fixed on horizon. "Your mother was like you, beautiful, dreamy, full of life. She disobeyed, married for love against my wishes, and was unhappy. Your father drank, gambled, spent everything. She endured for years before the accident. You never told me this. Because it hurts. Hurts knowing I couldn't save her, that when she finally came back to me asking for help, I rejected her out of pride." Tears flowing now. "A week later, they were dead, and I raised you alone, terrified of failing again." Eleanor felt anger dissolve into compassion. Gran wasn't a villain. She was a wounded woman trying to avoid repeating history. "Gran," she took the wrinkled hand, "I'm not my mother, and Callum's not my father. Isn't he? He's old, broken, full of problems, just like your father was. No, he's kind, hard-working, honest, completely different. And are you certain, absolutely certain you're not repeating the mistake?" The question echoed Callum's words. Everyone questioned her certainties. "I'm not certain of anything," Eleanor admitted, "but I'm learning, making mistakes, getting it right, living." Gran looked at her, really looked, saw woman in place of girl. "You've grown up, finally." They stayed in silence, hands joined, listening to waves. It wasn't complete forgiveness, wasn't acceptance, but it was a beginning. "Does he treat you well?" Gran asked eventually. "He does." "And respects you?" "Respects. Too much, perhaps." Almost smile touched Gran's lips. "Then maybe I was wrong about him." Eleanor squeezed her hand, throat tight. When she returned to the inn, she found Callum fixing the veranda. He looked up, saw something different in her face. "You all right?" "I talked to Gran. And I realized we're all afraid. Me, you, her, all terrified of repeating past mistakes." Callum came down from the ladder, wiped his hands on his trousers. "Fear's intelligent sometimes, and paralyzing other times." Eleanor approached. "You asked me how I know I want you. Not just gratitude, not just refuge." "I did." "The answer is I don't know with absolute certainty, because absolute certainty doesn't exist, but I know this." Deep breath. "I wake thinking of you, sleep thinking of you. Get idiotic jealous of Sienna, feel happy when you smile, feel sad when you're sad." She moved closer. "Maybe it's too new to be true love. Maybe it'll pass, maybe it'll grow, but it's real. Now, in this moment, it's absolutely real." Callum looked at her with intensity that made breathing fail. "What if I hurt you? Unintentionally, but hurt you? Then you hurt me and we deal with it like adults, not like wounded people hiding." "Eleanor, you don't have to decide now. Just need to stop deciding it won't work without even trying." She left him there, heart racing but head clear. She'd told the truth. Now it was up to him. That night, during silent dinner, Callum spoke. Rosemary told me something before she died. Eleanor waited, respecting his pace. Told me not to bury my heart with her, that she'd loved being my wife but didn't want to be my last story. Wise. She was. Sad smile. And she was right. But it's hard. Every time I start feeling something for you, I feel like I'm betraying her. You're not. I know that here. Touched his forehead. But here, touched his chest. Here it still hurts. It'll always hurt a bit. She was important. She's part of you. What if there isn't enough room, for her and for you? Hearts aren't finite. Eleanor smiled sadly. My gran lost my mother but loved me completely anyway. Love doesn't divide, it multiplies. Callum stayed silent a long time. Then he stood, approached. He took Eleanor's face in his hands, looking deep into her eyes. You frighten me. Why? Because you make me want to try, and trying I might lose. Or you might win. He kissed her forehead. Gentle gesture, timid promise. I need more time. Just a bit more. That's fine. But when he pulled away, there was something different in his gaze. Decision forming, fear receding. Eleanor went to sleep with renewed hope. It wasn't victory yet, but it was a battle won. And sometimes that was enough. The change was gradual but noticeable. Callum began allowing proximity, didn't pull away when shoulders touched on the veranda, smiled more, touched her arm when passing, letting hand linger extra seconds. Eleanor flourished under the attention, discovered talent for photography, capturing the inn at angles that made the place seem magical, created discreet profile on social media, Icy Haven Refuge, posting photos of events, food, sunsets. That's when they met, the Silvers. 50-year-old couple wanting to renew vows after overcoming serious crisis in marriage. They wanted intimacy, not spectacle. We can do it, Eleanor told Callum. Something special. They worked together, creating perfect ceremony. Flower arch on beach, candlelight dinner, live music. Mrs. Silver cried during vows. Mr. Silver held her hand like one holds recovered treasure. We almost lost everything, Mrs. Silver told Eleanor afterward. Infidelity, lies, years of resentment. But we decided to fight, rebuild. How did you manage? Eleanor asked, genuinely curious. We stopped being afraid of truth. Even when it hurt, even when it was ugly, we said everything, and then decided if the love that remained was worth saving. And was it? Is. Every day, it still is. The words stayed with Eleanor. That night, she found Callum on the beach watching stars. She sat beside him on still warm sand. What are you thinking about? Us. Raw honesty. What we are, what we could be. And I'm afraid I'm building sandcastle. Beautiful now, but that'll crumble at the first wave. Eleanor thought carefully before responding. Remember what Mrs. Silver said about truth? I do. Then truth. I've fallen in love with you, completely, stupidly in love. I know it's fast, I know I might be confused, but it's what I feel now. She turned to look at him. You don't have to reciprocate, don't have to feel the same, but you need to know, because pretending not to feel is killing me. Callum stayed a long time looking at the sea. Then, truth, I've been in love with you since that first night, when you arrived destroyed yet still strong, when you trusted a complete stranger, when you stayed. Then what's the problem? The problem is love isn't enough sometimes. There's age difference, experience difference. You're still discovering who you are. What if you discover I'm not part of that? What if I discover I'm exactly part of it? How can we be certain? We can't. Eleanor took his hand, but we can try. Really, without fear paralyzing us. Callum intertwined fingers with hers, looking at their joined hands. Promise you'll be honest? If you tire, if you change your mind, if you wake up one day and realize you made a mistake. I promise. If you promise the same. I promise. They stayed like that, hands joined, hearts racing. It wasn't happy ending yet, but it was true beginning. Callum stood, pulled her with him. "Come." They returned to the inn, hand in hand. On the veranda he paused. "I won't kiss you today." "Why not?" "Because when I really kiss you, it won't be impulse. It'll be conscious choice, and I'm not ready to make that choice yet." The honesty hurt less than it should, because there was promise there too. That night Eleanor slept with a smile on her lips. She had no certainties, had no guarantees, but she had truth, and truth was better foundation than comfortable lie could ever be. In the following days something changed in the dynamic. They worked together with natural synchrony, talked openly without filters. Callum told about depression after Rosemary's death, the months drinking, suicidal thoughts, the day he almost gave up. Eleanor told about virginity, not physical but emotional, how she'd never learned to feel, only to repress. They discovered they had more in common than differences, both wounded, both survivors, both trying to rebuild with broken pieces. It was on a hot afternoon while painting the last room that Callum paused. "Want to show you something?" He led her to a small annex she'd never seen open. Inside, canvases, dozens of them, oil paintings, seascapes, abstract portraits, vibrant colors. "You made these?" Eleanor touched a canvas reverently. "Did. Before Rosemary died. After... couldn't anymore. They're beautiful. We're escape." He looked around. "Way to express things I didn't know how to say." Eleanor studied the paintings. There was pain there, but also beauty, hope amid chaos. "You should paint again." "Don't know if I can." "Try. For me." Something passed through his face. Decision, perhaps. That night, Eleanor woke to noises. Got up, found Callum in the annex, brush in hand, new canvas mounted. He painted with fierce intensity. Dark colors at first, then light infiltrating, horizon emerging. She watched in silence, not interrupting. Saw catharsis happening, healing through creation. When he finally paused, hours later, there were tears on his face, but also smile. "Thank you," he said without looking at her. "For what?" "For reminding me I can still create, not just fix broken things." Eleanor approached, hugged him from behind. He covered her hands with his, and they stayed like that. No kiss, no promises, just presence. True, honest, enough. Summer arrived bringing visible transformations. The inn prospered discreetly, reputation growing by word of mouth. Eleanor had become manager, in fact, organizing events, dealing with suppliers, handling bookings. The timid girl had disappeared completely. In her place, confident woman with steady gaze and smile that won over clients. Callum noticed the changes, the way she commanded difficult situations, the natural authority, the grace. And he admitted to himself he was completely surrendered. It was on a special event night, golden wedding anniversary of elderly couple, that everything changed. The party was magical. Delicate decorations, perfect food, soft music. The couple danced on the veranda under stars and everyone applauded. Eleanor watched with tears in her eyes. Callum approached, offered hand. "Dance with me." She accepted, surprised. There was no music besides the whisper of the sea, but they danced anyway. Simple movements, close bodies, synchronized hearts. 50 years, Eleanor murmured. "Can you imagine?" "I can." She looked up, finding his eyes fixed on her. "Can you?" "Yes. I can imagine waking beside you for 50 years. I can imagine growing old with you. I can imagine a future that doesn't terrify me." The world stopped. "Callum, I love you." Just like that. "I love you and I'm tired of fighting it." Tears ran down Eleanor's face. "I love you too." He lowered his face, paused millimeters from her lips. "May I?" "Yes." The kiss was different from the first, desperate one. This was choice, conscious, deliberate, frightening and perfect. Taste of wine, promise and future. Eleanor melted against him, hands in the grey hair she loved so much. When they separated, both breathless, Callum rested his forehead against hers. "I don't know how to do this right." "Neither do I." But I want to try. Me too. They danced until the last star shone. When guests left, they cleaned together in comfortable silence. Before separating to sleep, Callum held her hand. I don't want to rush anything. Want to do it right. What's right? I don't know. But I know I want to respect you. Not turn this into something rushed, just because we have desire. Eleanor understood. He still had reservations about age, experience, still wanted to protect her even from himself. That's fine, she said, kissing his cheek. We'll go slow. But in the following days, slow was delicious torture. Charged looks, touches that lingered. Stolen kisses in the kitchen, interrupted by oven timer or guest knock. Eleanor discovered his body gradually, the scar on shoulder from fishing accident, the calloused hands that were gentle despite roughness, the way back muscles moved when he worked shirtless. Callum discovered her too, the sensitive spot behind ear that made her shiver, the way she bit her lip when concentrated, the genuine laugh that exploded into giggles when he told old stories. It was on a rainy afternoon, when they had no guests or scheduled events, that tension finally reached breaking point. They were in the living room, Eleanor reading in hammock, Callum painting. He paused, looking at her with intensity that made books slip from hands. What? Nothing, just, you're beautiful. Eleanor blushed, still wasn't used to direct compliments. Stop. It's true. He put down brush, approached. I look at you and think how lucky I am. Runaway bride appearing on beach just when I needed to believe in fresh starts. I'm the lucky one. Callum sat on hammock edge, making it sway, touched her face, fingers tracing jawline. Can I ask something? Anything. Your virginity... He hesitated. Did Dominic try? Eleanor understood the unasked question. No. I never... with anyone. Something passed through his eyes, responsibility perhaps, or fear of ruining something precious. And does that frighten you? She asked. My inexperience. It terrifies me. Don't want to hurt you. Don't want your first time to be something... Eleanor put fingers to his lips, silencing. My first time already happened, at the church when I decided to run, when I chose myself for the first time. Everything after is just... learning. Eleanor, and I want to learn with you. Not today, not tomorrow necessarily, but when the time's right, I want it to be you. Callum pulled her into deep kiss, hands in her hair, body tense with controlled desire. When they separated, he was trembling. You destroy me. Good. They laughed together, tension breaking, stayed intertwined in hammock, rain beating on roof, outside world forgotten. It was that week they received unexpected visit. A man in expensive suit parked in front of inn, got out with leather briefcase, posture of someone used to being obeyed. Can I help? Callum asked, coming down from ladder where he was fixing gutter. Callum Thornton. Yes. My name is Mr. Pritchard. I'm a solicitor. Came to talk about the property. Eleanor's stomach tightened. Legal problems were last thing they needed. What property? This one, the Anchor Inn. The solicitor opened briefcase, removed documents, more specifically about irregularities and purchase offer my client made. It's not for sale. Everything's for sale at the right price. Smile that didn't reach eyes. And considering your debts, pending fines, illegal renovations, my client's willing to make generous offer. Who's your client? Dominic Ashford. The name fell like bomb. Eleanor felt sudden nausea. He can't, she began. He can and will. Solicitor faced Callum. Unless you regularize everything in 30 days, council will execute the debt. My client offers to pay everything, assume property, and still leave reasonable compensation. Not interested. Be reasonable. You're sinking. Accept offer, cut losses, start over somewhere else. I said no. Solicitor sighed, putting papers away. You have 1 week to reconsider. After that offer expires and... well, counsel isn't as generous as my client. He left, leaving envelope with formal proposal. Callum crushed paper hard, jaw tense. He doesn't give up, Eleanor said quietly. Dominic never gives up when he wants something. He won't get it. I'll find a way to regularize everything. But both knew it wasn't that simple. Engineer, reports, fees, everything added up to values they didn't have. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. Lying in bed, she thought of Dominic, of sick persistence, of need to win, to have, to control. She got up, went to Callum's room, knocked softly. "Come in." Rough voice of someone also not sleeping. He sat in bed, documents spread around, calculating, recalculating, seeking miracle that didn't exist. "You won't sleep like this," Eleanor said. "Need to find solution." "Not today. Today you just need to rest." She sat on bed edge, took papers and organized in pile. Callum watched with unreadable expression. "Stay," he asked suddenly. "Just to sleep. Just so I'm not alone with thoughts." Eleanor hesitated only second, then lay beside him on top of covers, maintaining respectful distance. But Callum pulled her close, arms wrapping, face buried in her hair. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For being here. For believing it's worth fighting." Eleanor turned in his arms, looking at face she'd memorized in every detail. "It'll always be worth it." They slept intertwined, and for the first time in weeks, neither had nightmares. At dawn, they woke still embraced. Callum looked at her messy hair, sleep-creased face, and knew with absolute certainty it was her, would always be her. "Eleanor," he said, voice rough with sleep and emotion, "marry me." She blinked, sure she'd heard wrong. "What? Marry me? Not now, not tomorrow, but eventually, when you're ready, when I deserve it." Tears filled her eyes. "You're mad. Completely. For you. We barely know each other. We've barely been together. You said you wanted to go slow physically, but in heart. Eleanor, my heart's already decided, already chose you. Just need yours to choose, too." She kissed him urgently, tears flowing, laughter mixed with sobs. Yes. 1,000 times yes. And there, in simple room of nearly bankrupt inn, with unsolvable problems and uncertain future, they promised themselves to each other. It wasn't happy ending yet, but it was true beginning. And sometimes beginnings were better than endings. The proposal brought temporary lightness, but reality didn't wait. The 30 days to regularize the inn drained like sand, and each solution attempt hit wall of bureaucracy and impossible costs. Eleanor took command of situation, researched, called, knocked on doors, discovered microcredit program for small businesses, but they needed guarantees they didn't have. Tried negotiating with council, but ran into inflexible official. "It's almost like someone's making it difficult on purpose," she commented after third refusal in 1 week. Callum agreed grimly. He knew power of money in small town. Dominic had influence and wouldn't hesitate to use it. It was Gran who brought unexpected clue. She appeared at inn one afternoon, rigid posture but soft eyes. "May I come in?" Callum gestured to veranda. Eleanor appeared from kitchen, surprised. "Gran, came to warn." The woman sat carefully. "Dominic's spreading that you operate illegally. Paid official to make approvals difficult." "How do you know?" Callum asked. "Mrs. Hartley heard conversation at bakery. Told me because—" Paused, looking at Eleanor. "Because she realized she was wrong about you, about both of you." Eleanor sat beside Gran, taking wrinkled hand. "And you? Still think I'm wrong? I think you're too young for permanent decisions, but—" Deep sigh. "I also see you're happy. Happier than you ever were with Dominic." She turned to Callum. "Do you love her? More than life? And will you care for her, even when things get difficult? Especially when they get difficult." Gran studied him long, then nodded, reluctant but real acceptance. "Then you have my blessing, and my help." She placed envelope on table. "It's not much, lifetime savings, but should cover part of regularization costs." Eleanor looked at envelope at Gran and burst into tears, hugged the woman who'd raised her, finally feeling acceptance she'd always sought. "Thank you, Gran, but I can't take your saving." "You can. What good's money if not to help family?" Looked around in. "Besides, this place has potential, just needs chance. With Gran's help, they hired honest engineer. Reports revealed structure was better than feared, cosmetic renovations mainly, nothing fundamental compromised. Approval took tense weeks, but came. The Anchor Inn was finally legal. Dominic appeared the day they hung new sign. "Congratulations," he said, voice dripping venom. "You won this battle." "It's not battle," Callum responded firmly. "It's our life." "Life that won't last." Dominic looked at Eleanor with contempt. "You think you'll be happy with him? Old fisherman, poor, no future. I'm happier now than I'd ever be with you. Give me a year. When novelty wears off, when you realize the mistake." "It'll never happen," Eleanor interrupted, "because for first time I'm with someone who truly loves me. Not my image, not my family connections, not what I represent. Just me." Dominic spat on ground, disgusting gesture. "You'll regret this." He left for last time. And finally Eleanor felt his weight lift from her shoulders. Within regularized, they could expand, made small renovations, hired permanent help, not Sienna but Tanya, 40-year-old woman, divorced without ulterior motives. Business prospered. Social media profile gained followers. Tourism magazine journalist came to do feature, "Romantic Seaside Refuge Wins Hearts." The feature brought wave of bookings. Suddenly, they were full for 3 months straight. Eleanor managed everything with competence that surprised even herself. Callum handled maintenance and had returned to painting. His paintings decorated walls, and guests asked if they sold. First sale was to couple who'd renewed vows there. They paid generous amount for painting of beach sunset. Callum was shocked, never imagined his art would be worth money. "It's beautiful," the client said. "Captures something. Hope, you know. Fresh start." It was exactly what Callum painted now. No longer pain and loss, but possibility. At night, when they finally were alone, they sat on renovated veranda planning future. "We could add 2 more rooms," Eleanor said, looking at plans she'd drawn. "Or build small restaurant you cook so well. Or gallery for your paintings. Or everything. Eventually." They laughed, daydreaming awake. But there was elephant in room neither mentioned. They still hadn't consummated the relationship. Not for lack of desire. Sexual tension was constant, suffocating. But Callum maintained respectful distance, always stopping before crossing final line. It was Eleanor who finally confronted it. "Why don't you touch me?" she asked one night, voice loaded with frustration and insecurity. "I do touch you. You know what I'm talking about." Callum sighed, putting wineglass aside. "Because when I touch you, when we cross that line, there's no going back, and I want to be absolutely certain you're ready." "I am ready." "Are you?" He looked deeply. "Or are you in a hurry to prove something? To me, to yourself, to the town?" The question stopped her. Was that it? Hurry to validate relationship through physical? "I don't know," she admitted honestly. "Maybe a bit. But I also want you, physically. And I get confused because you want me, but don't." "I want you so much it hurts," Callum interrupted, voice hoarse. "I wake wanting, sleep wanting, spend whole day controlling myself." He stood, approached her. "But your first time won't be rushed. Won't be because we're frustrated or proving point. It'll be when we're completely sure, when it's perfect. Nothing's perfect. Then when it's right." He kissed her forehead. "Trust me. It's worth waiting." Eleanor trusted. But the wait was killing her. In following days, fate tested their patience. Couple of guests cancelled last minute, leaving them completely alone in inn for first time in weeks. They had dinner with wine and pasta, Eleanor prepared. Talked, laughed, tension increasing with each sip, each look. When they finished, Callum extended hand. "Dance with me. No music, no witnesses. Just the 2 of them on veranda under stars." They danced slowly, bodies pressed together, breaths synchronized. Callum's hands descended down her back, stopping respectfully at waist. Eleanor looked up, saw naked desire in his face, and something broke. She kissed him urgently, hands in hair, body pressing against his. Callum groaned low, control slipping, hands tightened on her waist, pulling closer. Eleanor, hoarse warning. Don't stop. He lifted her, and she wrapped legs around his waist, carried her inside, stumbling over furniture, laughing between kisses. They stopped at his bedroom door, and Callum paused. Last chance to change your mind. I'll never change my mind about you. He carried her inside, kicking door closed, and there, that starry night, Eleanor finally discovered what it meant to be loved completely. Body, mind, and soul. Dawn arrived golden and soft, seeping through bedroom curtains. Eleanor woke intertwined with Callum, body sore in best possible way, heart overflowing. He was already awake, watching her with expression that would melt rocks. "Morning," he whispered. "Morning." She smiled, suddenly shy. So. He kissed her nose. "No regrets?" "None. You?" "How could I?" He pulled her closer. You are. Searched for words and gave up, kissing her deeply. They stayed in bed until late, talking, touching, discovering. When they finally got up, the world seemed different, colors more vivid, air sweeter, but happiness was interrupted by unexpected call. "The Anchor Inn," Eleanor answered. "Eleanor? It's Dr. Morrison from hospital." Her stomach tightened. Why would hospital call? "Your grandmother was admitted last night. Stroke. She's stable, but you should come." The world tilted. Callum caught her when knees buckled, took phone, got information. Half-hour later, they were at hospital. Gran looked tiny in bed, half face paralyzed, eyes frightened. "Gran." Eleanor held her hand, tears falling. "I'm here." Gran tried to speak, incoherent sounds coming out, frustration in eyes. "You don't need to speak." Eleanor squeezed hand. "Just rest. You'll be fine." But Doctor was honest. Recovery would be long, difficult. Perhaps never walk again. Would need constant care. Eleanor didn't hesitate. "She comes to live with me, at the inn." "Eleanor, you can't," Callum began. "I can. She cared for me my whole life. Now it's my turn." Callum looked at determination in her face and knew argument would be futile. "Then we'll need to adapt ground floor room. Put support bars, space for wheelchair." "Are you sure?" Eleanor asked, gratitude tightening throat. "She's your family, so she's my family too." In following days, they transformed empty room into accessible suite, worked day and night, Callum using all construction skill, Eleanor caring for details that would make Gran comfortable. When they finally brought the woman home, she cried, only communication she could manage besides confused sounds. "Are you happy?" Eleanor asked. Gran squeezed her hand with surprising strength. Yes. Caring for her was immense challenge. Eleanor learned to bathe, change, feed by tube when swallowing got difficult. Callum helped whenever he could, patient and kind. Inn guests discovered situation. Some were uncomfortable, but majority was moved. Brought flowers, offered help, praised Eleanor's dedication. One special guest changed everything. Dr. Helena Chambers, retired neurologist, was spending weeks holiday. She observed Eleanor caring for Gran and offered help. "I can teach rehabilitation techniques. Don't guarantee complete recovery, but we can improve her quality of life." Eleanor accepted gratefully. Every day, Dr. Helena worked with Gran. Simple exercises, repetitive movements, infinite patience. Slowly, miraculously, Gran began improving. Recovered movement on one side, managed to speak simple words. "Eleanor," she said one morning, voice slurred but clear. Eleanor burst into happy tears. "I'm here, Gran. I'll always be." Gran looked at Callum, who stood in doorway watching. "Good, man," she managed to say. "The best," Eleanor agreed. But caring for Gran took toll. Eleanor was exhausted, sleeping few hours, no time for herself. Inn suffered, cancelled events, refused bookings. Callum watched worried, tried hiring nurse, but Eleanor refused. "It's my responsibility." "But you're killing yourself." "Doesn't matter." "It does," he finally exploded. "You matter. Your health, your happiness matter." "She cared for me. And you're caring for her, but you don't need to do it alone." The argument was intense. First real one since they'd been together. They shouted, cried, frustrations pouring out, but it ended with Callum holding Eleanor while she broke down. "Help me," she whispered finally. "I don't know how to do everything alone." "You're never alone. Never will be." They hired nurse part-time. Gran protested initially, but yielded seeing Eleanor's exhaustion. With help, routine became sustainable. Eleanor returned to managing in. Gran continued improving. Callum painted and cared for structure. And slowly, painfully, they built balance. It was on stormy night, echoes of storm that had brought them closer months ago, that Gran asked to speak with them. They sat beside her bed, waiting patiently while she formed words. "You... to... Ri..." Eleanor looked at Callum, surprised. "Gran, you don't need to... determination in her eyes. "You to... pie." She took Eleanor's hand with good one, placed over Callum's hand. "Bless. Sing." It was permission, forgiveness, complete acceptance, finally. Eleanor cried, Callum too. Gran smiled, crooked smile but genuine. That night, lying together, Callum asked, "When do you want to marry?" "I don't know. When we're ready." "I'm ready now." Eleanor turned in his arms. "Really?" "With everything happening, with Gran, with... especially because of everything. Because life is this, chaos, problems, difficulties, and I want to face everything by your side, officially." "Then let's marry." "When?" "Soon, simple. Just us, Gran, some close people." "On beach." "Where else?" They planned wedding in 2 weeks. Nothing elaborate. Sunset ceremony on beach, simple dress, selected guests. Eleanor wouldn't wear white this time. Chose blue, color of sea that united them, color of fresh starts. News spread through town. Some criticized. Too fast, too strange, too inappropriate. But majority celebrated. Their story, distorted and romanticized, had become local legend. Night before wedding, Eleanor visited place where everything began, rocks where Callum had welcomed her, where she'd cried her first free cry. He found her there, as if knowing she'd be there. Nervous? No. And it was true. Excited? Ready? No doubts? "I have one doubt." Serious expression. Her heart jumped. "What?" "How long can I love you, because 50 years seems too little?" Eleanor laughed, relieved and happy. "Then love forever." "Deal." They sat on rocks, watching moon reflecting on sea, promising tomorrow that would finally arrive. Day dawned perfect. Cloudless sky, gentle breeze, calm sea like mirror. Eleanor woke at in room that had been hers since that first night running from altar. Seemed centuries ago. Seemed yesterday. Tanya helped with preparations, hair loose in natural waves, light makeup, blue dress flowing like water. "You're beautiful," Gran said from wheelchair, speech improving daily. "Thank you, Gran." "You're far that would like." It was first time she'd mentioned Eleanor's parents since accident. Eleanor knelt beside her. "Do you think they're watching?" "I'm sure." They embraced, forgiveness and love finally complete between them. At 5 in the afternoon, small group gathered on beach. Mrs. Hartley was there, now friend instead of enemy. Old Mr. Davies, Tanya, Dr. Helena, local fishermen who'd known Callum since childhood. And Callum. He waited barefoot in sand, light trousers and white shirt, hair tousled by wind. When he saw Eleanor descending cliff stairs, his face transformed, pure love, raw, devastating. She walked slowly, savoring each step. Had no father to give her away, no traditions to fulfill. Walked alone by own choice toward future she'd chosen. When she got close, Callum extended hand. "Hi. Hi." She accepted, fingers intertwining. Efficient, magistrate friend of Callum's, kept ceremony short, simple. But when it came time for vows, Eleanor asked to speak first. "Callum," firm voice despite tears. "When I met you I was running, not just from wedding, but from myself, from life I thought I should have. You gave me refuge when I needed, but more important, you gave me mirror. Let me see who I really was. Wiped tears continued. You taught me strength isn't never breaking. It's breaking and rebuilding. That love isn't perfection. It's truth. That happy ending isn't absence of problems. It's choosing to face problems together. Looked into his eyes. I promise to love you on easy and difficult days. Promise to be truthful always, even when truth hurts. Promise to build life with you, brick by brick, choice by choice. Promise to be your refuge when storms come, and promise to let you be mine. Callum was crying now without shame. When his turn came, he held her hands firmly. Eleanor, you came into my life like storm, unexpected, powerful, transformative. I was prepared to live rest of life in loneliness. Thought I'd used my quota of happiness, that I didn't deserve fresh start. Smiled through tears. You proved me wrong. Taught me heart can love again without betraying memories. That age is just number when souls connect. That it's never too late to rebuild. Voice became hoarse with emotion. I promise to protect you but never smother. Promise to challenge you to grow but accept you as you are. Promise to be honest even when it's difficult. Promise to grow old by your side and find humor in wrinkles that come. Promise to paint you in all colors every day until my last breath. And I promise to love you not despite our differences, but because of them. Because you complete me in ways I didn't know I was broken. They exchanged simple rings, hand-beaten silver by local artisan. Had no diamonds but had meaning. You may kiss the bride, magistrate announced, smiling. Callum pulled Eleanor into kiss that stole both their breaths. Deep, promising, eternal. Guests applauded, gulls cried, waves broke. Universe celebrating. Reception was on inn veranda. Simple food, guitar music, decorations Eleanor had made. Gran stayed until late, smiling more than speaking, happiness radiant. When everyone left, it was already night. Eleanor and Callum walked to beach, still in wedding clothes, barefoot in sand. So, he said, officially my wife. Officially your husband. She tested word. Sounds good. Sounds perfect. They sat on rocks where they'd met. Eleanor rested head on Callum's shoulder. Frightened? Terrified. Typical honesty. You? Too, but good kind of fear. Like before adventure. Our life will be adventure. I hope so. They stayed in silence, watching stars. After a long time, Eleanor spoke. You know what I realized? What? That day at church, when I was about to marry Dominic, I was looking for ending. Full stop on story. Married, solved, finished. Turned to look at Callum. But with you, I don't want ending. I want continuation. Infinite chapters, some happy, some difficult, all true. Callum kissed her forehead. Infinite chapters. I like that. What will next one be? Don't know, he smiled, but we'll write together. In pocket, Callum had envelope, took it out, handed to her. Wedding present. Eleanor opened curious. Inside, deed, making her name official as co-owner of the Anchor Inn. Callum, it was always yours too. Since first wall you helped paint, now it's official. She cried again, always crying at important moments. But they were happy tears. Thank you for everything. For taking me in, teaching me, loving me. Thank you for appearing, for staying, for teaching me to live again. They returned to inn hand in hand. Gran was already asleep. Tanya had gone home. House was silent. They went up to room, no longer his or hers, but theirs. Callum closed door, turned to wife. So, Mrs. Thornton, Mrs. Hartfield Thornton, she corrected, keeping name too. Didn't lose identity, gained extension. Mrs. Hartfield Thornton. He tested, approving. Ready for first official night as couple? Every night's official when there's love. They laughed, kissed, loved, and lay intertwined, complete. Months later, the Anchor Inn was thriving. They'd added small restaurant, gallery with Callum's paintings, space for craft workshops Eleanor taught. Gran had recovered most movement, spoke almost normally, sat on veranda every afternoon, knitting and watching movement. Eleanor discovered pregnancy on spring morning, told Callum on beach, where everything began. He was mute for long minutes, then picked her up and spun, laughing and crying simultaneously. We're going to be parents. Are you happy? I'm terrified, always honest, and happier than I ever imagined possible. News spread fast. Town that once judged, now celebrated. Mrs. Hartley made cake. Old Mr. Davies built crib. Neighbours knitted little clothes. One afternoon, Dominic appeared. Eleanor was in garden, belly already pronounced, planting hydrangeas. Came to say goodbye, he said without preamble. I'm moving, London, new job. Good luck. He looked at her, happy, radiant, clearly loved. You're well, really well. I am. I'm sorry. For everything. For lies. For wager. For... I know. And it was true. Anger had gone long ago. And I forgive you. Really. Does he make you happy? Immensely. Dominic nodded, final acceptance. Then I did favor without knowing. Being idiot, I freed you to find this. He left forever. Eleanor returned to planting, smiling. Callum appeared, lay on grass beside her. Who was that? Ghost from past, finally exorcised. Good. Don't like ghosts. They laughed. Callum placed hand on her belly, feeling strong kick. Active today. Always, like father. Or mother. They stayed like that, sun warming, future literally growing between them. In 10th month of marriage on full moon night, Eleanor went into labour. Callum drove like madman to hospital, holding her hand, breathing together. 12 hours later, Rosemary Eleanor was born. Homage to strong women who'd shaped their lives. Baby had Callum's eyes, Eleanor's hair. Powerful cry announcing strong personality. When they placed child in Eleanor's arms, she looked at Callum. Exhausted, emotional, in love. We made this. We did. He kissed her forehead, then baby's. We made life. Gran arrived wobbling but smiling, tears flowing. My great grand daughter. Want to hold her? With immense care, they placed Rosemary in Gran's arms. Woman looked at baby, and something healed. Cycles of pain breaking, generations of fear dissipating. Perfect. 2 years later, on Inn's expanded veranda, Eleanor watched common scene now. Callum teaching Rosemary to walk in sand. Wobbling child, laughing, falling and getting up. Callum patient, encouraging, infinitely loving. Gran knitted beside, health good, constant smile. Tanya served tea to guests. Inn was full, life was full. Eleanor picked up camera, captured moment, not to post, just to keep. To remember, when years passed, how each piece of pain was worth it. Callum looked up, saw her watching. Blue kiss. She responded same. At night after Rosemary slept, they lay in veranda hammock. Happy? Question they asked constantly. Incredibly. Eleanor fit against him. You. More than should be possible. Sometimes I still don't believe. In all this. In us. Me too. Callum played with her hair. But then I remember that crazy bride running on beach, torn dress, smudged mascara. Eleanor laughed, poked his ribs. And I remember lonely fishermen on rocks, opening arms without questions. 2 wrecks finding each other. 2 fresh starts. They swayed in hammock, listening to sea. After long time, Eleanor said, You know what I learned? Tell me. That happy ending isn't about having perfect life. It's about having true life. With person who loves you on good and bad days, who stays when they could run, who chooses you always. Callum pulled her closer. And that love isn't about finding perfect person. It's about seeing imperfections and loving anyway, better because of them. Exactly. They stayed in comfortable silence. Then Callum said, Thank you. For what? For running from altar, for appearing on beach, for staying, for loving me when it was hard, for building all this with me. Eleanor turned, kissed him slowly. Thank you for opening your arms, for being patient, for waiting while I discovered who I am, for loving not who I should be, but who I am. Always. And there, on veranda of inn they'd saved together, with daughter sleeping inside, and Gran finally at peace. With life built brick by brick and choice by choice, they understood. True love wasn't fairy tale. It was work, commitment, daily choices to stay. It was arguments and reconciliations, tears and laughter, failures and victories. It was real, imperfect, absolutely beautiful. It was waves breaking, constant, inevitable, eternally beginning again. And choices, made daily, consciously, courageously. Between waves and choices they found not the happy ending Eleanor had imagined at church. They found something better. They found true life. And they lived not happily ever after, because forever is long and complicated. But they lived happily for today, and tomorrow, and each day they chose each other again. In the end, that was all that mattered. In the end, that was everything.